he shuts the door, sits down. He says, all of the computer programmers, and there were 25 of them, we're all going to quit unless you meet our demands. I said, okay, got my attention. What are your demands? Number one, we want to use a different programming language than we've been using. Number two, we want to use a different database product than we've been using. Number three, we want to embrace the internet in a way that we haven't been doing before. I look at him and I said, okay, and he said, what do you mean okay? I said, okay. I didn't know half of what he was telling me. And what I did know is that I just spent a lot of money to buy a company and they were all going to walk out the door. So I said to him, by the way, I'd like you to be the chief technology officer of the company. He looked at me and said, what? He said, I'm not chief technology officer, I'm a computer programmer here. I said, but how did you end up here? He said, well, we all sat in a room and we, over lunch, and we decided what our demands were, and I wrote them down, and it was decided that I should go in and deliver the message. And I said, so what you're telling me is your colleagues decided that you were the leader, and your colleagues want to follow your advice, and your colleagues have worked with you to develop the agenda. That's the chief technology officer. And so my point there is that I never saw his resume. Didn't know who the guy was. Didn't know where he fit in the pecking order of the company. Didn't know anything about it. What I knew was he was a natural leader. He had the respect of his peers. He didn't know anything about trading electric power, which is my original idea. I figured, nobody knew about it. We were inventing how to do it. So I figured we're all going to learn this. That's the easy part. The hard part is how do you find people who command the respect of their peers, who are natural leaders, who are honest, who are open, who are willing to challenge you when things are not good. And he has all those qualities. And today, that's why he's one of the top CTOs. And I was very fortunate that they gave him the list of demands. One of the things that we've learned to do, and I think it's what's made ICE successful, is we make a lot of mistakes. Gosh, we do things wrong every day. And the key is to admit your mistakes. My company, when we went public in year 2005, had a market cap of about $1 billion. Today, it's about $7 billion. So in 4 years, we've created $6 billion of shareholder value. We made an investment in India recently, $25 million, very tiny little investment, wanted to enter the Indian market, and the thing went horribly wrong. We invested in the wrong management team, we did a bad job, and we ended up writing off the investment. And on my earnings call last quarter, I went out of my way to say to our shareholders, I'm sorry. We lost $25 million of your dollars. We made a mistake. We went with the wrong people. We didn't do enough diligence. And we're not going to do this again. Now, my shareholders don't. I mean, my shareholders, the people that have ridden us, have made so much money following us. $25 million is an absolute drop in the bucket. But the point there is I made that statement for a reason, which is I mean it. We're in business to take risk, but when we make a mistake, you want to admit your mistakes. I'm the CEO of the company. I was backing that decision. I wanted to have personal accountability that I made that mistake. It was important for me to say that to myself. It was important for me to have my employees hear it because I want them to do the same thing. I want them to do that to me. I want them to come into my office and say, I made a mistake and we got to change course, and I want them to do it early in the process. People that can do that the best really build the best companies in the world. And lastly, in terms of advice I've learned along the way, I've had just great privilege in my life. This morning Barney Frank called me. I meet with world leaders. I've met the president a number of times, been to parties with influential people. All of which, not to drop names, but the circles that I've been able to access, the people I've been able to meet have really given me a fabulous run. And I'm very honored and happy that to have that opportunity. And the reality is, I've learned increasingly, and this is an old guy telling you, some of you young people here, but enjoy the ride. It's not about the destination; it's about the ride. And starting a business is an unbelievable ride in life. And it's why I think all of us in this room are here to support those that want to do that, because it's something that we admire. And to me, I liken it to jumping into a stream. If you jump into a stream, that stream's going to take you somewhere. If it has a current, you're going to go with it. What you need to think about in running a small business is the reality is you can only paddle to the left and you can only paddle to the right to avoid the rocks. The stream is taking you somewhere. Your job is to avoid the rocks. And don't be stupid and try to paddle upstream. Let the damn river take you somewhere and enjoy the ride. And if you do that, regardless of how successful the company becomes financially, I can guarantee you that you'll go for an experience in life that very few people have an opportunity to experience. And frankly, it's why you've asked me to come up here and speak to you today. So it really, and share some of those things with people that you care about. I want to wind up by reading a quote to you that was recently in the Financial Times by a guy named John Kay, who frankly, in 4 sentences is going to say what I just said in 20 minutes. And it's a little more eloquent than I am, but I thought it was provocative. He recently wrote, "Great businesses depend on the talents of thousands of people, not just one. Their management require a multiplicity of incompatible talents, both vision but attention to detail, both emotional intelligence but analytic capability, both self-confidence but self-criticism. The most effective managers possess an idiosyncratic balance of attributes appropriate for the situations that they face, and the range of abilities successful companies require must be sought across a team rather than any individual personality." The Wall Street Journal had an article here that one of many been written about the U.S. economy particularly. And a couple weeks ago, there was an article that they were opining, and they said, "New companies will be critical to the strength of any economic recovery. Businesses in their first 90 days of life account for 14% of the hiring in the U.S. between 1993 and 2008, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. 14% of our jobs come from businesses that are in the first 90 days of their life. This recession is taking a particularly heavy toll on business creation as sources of small business funding dry up and as would-be entrepreneurs become more risk-adverse. When entrepreneurs do launch businesses, they're hiring fewer employees on average, and this trend threatens to dampen growth in jobs and economic output for years." So that's pretty sobering stuff, and I think it's something we're all well aware of. But the reason I wanted to read you that quote is that, first of all, the work that a lot of you are doing here in this room today is really important, not just for you and not just for your industry, but for the global economy. New companies taken together are the major sources not just of job creation, but of research and development, of innovation, of productivity growth, and, most importantly right now, of investor confidence. And secondly, even though the capital environment is less than ideal, every crisis creates real opportunities. That's one of the lessons of my career. As the introduction mentioned, we really were able to build our business around Enron's collapse, and we become a model now for managing risk in the derivatives sector. So I would encourage each of you in the room today to look around, think about the opportunities that are really being created in this economic crisis. And as the economy shows sign of improvements, it will be an ideal time for you to refocus your effort, to hone your pitch, and to move ahead with business confidence. So I'd like to thank you all for sitting so quietly today and attentive. And it was really nice to be here with Venture Atlanta, and look forward to the hard work and the good things you're doing today. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. We have a little gift. Compliments of all our partners at Venture Atlanta for your great speech today.
Oh, thank you.
It's fantastic and very inspirational. And I'm also reminded that 90% of the companies in Metro Atlanta have less than 100 employees. 90%. Inc. magazine says this is the best place in America to start a new business, but we're also the 4th largest Fortune 500 headquarters. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much
for what
you
do.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And now I'd like to call on Sterling Wharton from the Georgia Department of Economic Development. Sterling, thank you for being here. Appreciate the partnership with the state of Georgia and helping bring companies here and grow the ones we got.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks. I won't take long. At times like this, my father always told me to be brief and be seated. So with that, at the end of this, I'll do that very quickly. I want to welcome everyone. Thank you here on this, not only on the part of Metro Atlanta, but the entire state of Georgia. And this is truly important what we're doing in the state of Georgia, creating an innovation-based economy. Some of you are aware of the Georgia Research Alliance, GRA, ATDC, and a new organization called the Centers of Innovation, which I'm responsible for. It really connects the university research out to the industry based on industry expertise, as well as the investment capital that's there. I want to make one thing very quick on this as far as sponsorships. Georgia is putting a big sponsorship in the issue of tax incentives to emerging high-growth companies. It's a new bit of information and legislation that's just being announced. I think it's particularly appropriate to announce that here. There's only so much states or governments can do, and typically they're around creating environments and some tax ways. But we sort of put an innovative tax approach to actually give the benefit to emerging growth companies that were not making profits as of yet. They were basically operating at NOLs, not operating losses. What we did was created a law to now allow companies that are operating typically at R&D-based companies, if they have no tax liabilities, they can now take those credits against their withholding taxes. It's the first of its kind, first ever. No state in the country has done it. So the Kauffman Foundation recognizes this as the most entrepreneurial place in the country. Many others have as well. Now we've got a very innovative place that actually makes capital last longer, allows the companies to take the precious capital they get, extend that operation, and keep that cash in the business and avoid paying any withholding taxes and be able to keep that. So with that, I want to adjourn. Thank you all very, very much.
So if you could, we've got about a 30-minute break, and then we'll start up again as soon as we get the tables turned over. So make calls, go visit the companies in the room, and see you in a little bit.